2. Hi, I'm Leo from the Geek Legion of Doom.
And I'm Zara, also from the Geek Legion of Doom.
And we're going to be talking about Green Lantern today. So Green Lantern came out, and there was quite a lot of hype when it came out. You know, was this going to be sort of the big DC renaissance that Marvel had been sort of like plugging away at? Unfortunately, Green Lantern came out to a fairly sort of disappointing critical and commercial success. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the film. No, I actually didn't mind it as bad as a lot of people. Generally thinking, what about you? Did you think?
I loved it. I thought the acting was brilliant. So
this is probably going to be a fairly more positive view of it. I mean, it does have its problems though. So if you haven't seen the film, I'll give you a brief summary. It probably may contain a few spoilers. So it's obviously based on a DC superhero, Green Lantern. Character's name is called Hal Jordan, played by Ryan Reynolds. And essentially is a tale of, well, the Green Lantern Corps are essentially a sort of an intergalactic police force, and they all have a kind of power ring essentially it allows them to create and sort of animate various objects which they can use for pretty much anything they can think of. So it's limited only to your imagination, mainly used for sort of either defensive or offensive weaponry for the most part. So there's a sort of one of these aliens crash lands on Earth, and Ryan Reynolds is a fighter pilot who is kind of like your cocky sort of, you know, sort of that kind of like Ryan Reynolds character basically.
Cocky American,
yeah.
I'd like to say sorry.
Sorry, Americans, but yeah, he's you know, he's. Well, they kind of make it like he's destined, but I would say it does seem to be quite random. To be in, I mean, I'm not a huge Green Lantern fan in the regard of the comics. I've read The Blackest Night and I've read some Justice League stuff. I've not read a lot of Green Lantern, but I always say it was kind of more like he was meant to be sort of almost destined to be. But it seems quite random to me, just like he happened to be the nearest human and got palmed this off. So I don't know exactly how accurate that is in regards to the comics. To be honest with you. Anyway, so he gets this this ring. We didn't really know what it's you know what it does first of all. And there's it's quite funny. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is a funny actor, and I think that's probably one of the film's strengths. It does have a kind of like sort of a, you know, quite a good sense of humour. I mean, maybe that wasn't in keeping with the tone of the character. I mean, Hal Jordan, as I understand it, isn't particularly a particularly funny character. But there you go. You know, we can't expect the comics to be an exact replica of obviously exactly what we see on the page. So eventually he sort of gets whisked off to the planet Oa by the Green Lanterns and trained. He doesn't really want to do it first of all, and you know you have a sort of in kind of battling, should he do it, shouldn't he do it? And in the meantime you have this kind of evil force. Is it Parallax? Parallax, yeah. That's kind of big cloud basically.
Yeah, he uses fear, and obviously gathers life form and just takes them into himself, and that's why in the film you get to see half of these skulls and skeletons kind of going up and down taking humans. Yeah,
and he has covered a minion on Earth, and I forget the character's name. He's basically it's someone that Hal Jordan knows as like a doctor or a scientist.
He's the senator's son.
Oh right. So. And he sort of becomes sort of influenced basically. He starts to sort of physically manifest and sort of become evil. Now I have to say, on a side note, I actually felt a little bit sorry for him, to be honest with you. Yeah. I actually had a little bit of sympathy for his character, and I quite like it when you have a bad guy who you can kind of sympathise with. He did seem a bit downtrodden, and you kind of want to root for the underdog, and he had some serious, you know, bad fashion choices. But...
Oh no, I don't think it helped the fact that his father kept putting him down. Every time I saw them kind of together, the senator and his son, he was just kind of, you're a thinker, not a doer, and then going to Hal Jordan, giving him all this praise, and then also falling in love with this girl, and he can't have her, so because she's in love with the Green Lantern.
And plus he's ugly.
Yeah, that too. Doesn't help that it's...
Sorry, actor.
Sorry, it's a little bit ginger too. That doesn't suit you well.
Eventually, this evil force, the Parallax, it's attacking Earth, and Hal Jordan ultimately has to sort of pick up the mantle and fight him off, and that really is the film. And it's it's a fairly. The problem is obviously it's an origin film. First of all, so they're always going to have to go through the motions of an origin. So that kind of does limit you somewhat in regards to storytelling. But that doesn't mean to say origin stories can't always be that that interesting. It kind of its nearest film in a way I think is Fantastic Four. Yeah. It kind of follows a very similar sort of structure to that, to be honest with you. I think anyway. So let's talk about what we did like.
Okay, well, let's start from the very end. Sorry if you haven't seen it, it's a spoiler alert. When one of the Green Lanterns, I can't remember his name, the red dude, at the end, he puts on the Ring of Fear and becomes a...
Sinistro.
Sort of, a yellow...
He's played by Mark Strong, who's always a good actor.
So he suddenly becomes a Yellow Lantern. So obviously it's going to lead to a second one. So pray.
They were hoping.
Let's pray if it does come out. It is good. I have to admit, one of my other favourite parts is when, obviously, just after his first appearance as the Green Lantern in front of everyone on Earth, his friend comes around and goes, "You owe me. I want to see it." And then when he bursts into the Green Lantern outfit, the very first thing they were like, "You broke it." I'm sorry, that made me laugh. That was a really good scene and really well thought out.
It was quite funny. I mean, that's one of the things I enjoyed, and I think because I hadn't had a lot of experience with Green Lantern, I maybe didn't sort of pick it at like you would do. I mean, I'm much more of a Marvel guy, to be honest with you. So, if it's a series of Marvel that they kind of like change significantly, I'll tend to be a little bit more critical about it. But with Green Lantern, I didn't have a load of knowledge, so I kind of just took it as is. For example, I quite like Ryan Reynolds. I know some people have sort of criticised him if he just kind of plays Ryan Reynolds in this film, and I understand that criticism. But I did quite like Ryan Reynolds, and I was never bored in this film. It was just kind of, I was entertained. To be fair, I mean, it's not the sort of film I'd want to sort of go back and watch a whole bunch of times. But for what I saw, I came out of the cinema and I was happy enough, and I liked it. I wasn't a huge fan of the I'm forgetting the actress's name, Blake Lively, who played Carol Fenris. I thought she was okay, but. I didn't really get a lot from her, to be honest. I like the guy who played the bad guy. I don't remember the actor or the character's name. The guy with the sort of larger. I thought he was really good. I really liked his character.
Well done.
Like I said, he got some empathy from me, which I quite like. It's like a bit of a Magneto. You can kind of sort of sympathise with him. Now I will say this: getting onto the criticisms of this film. I always thought before this film came out that this film would be a hard sell to certain, because it's a little bit of a ridiculous premise. Yeah. It just sounds a bit cheesy to me. And when you've got kids watching this film, it doesn't really seem like a cool character.
Yeah.
If you look at like Batman, Iron Man, they're kind of like cool characters. Yeah, they do cool stuff. They look cool. So if you're a sort of just a young kid and you're sort of seeing these like summer films, this guy who makes kind of green sort of animations or sort of things out of thin air, basically, it just seems a little bit too stupid to me, and I think that kind of would put kids off, and I think that's maybe what happened. Now, a lot of criticism from the actual Green Lantern fans was that we didn't actually see a lot of the other Green Lanterns, really, and the training, when he was doing his training, it literally seemed like sort of 5 minutes, and then he's trained, basically. So maybe it would have been a bit better if it was you had a big space battle and stuff with all the Green Lanterns involved and stuff, but it kind of seemed a little bit threadbare with just him and stuff. And again, I understand that. I certainly don't think that this was a great film. I mean, I think it sounds like Zara liked it more than I did, but I didn't think it was a bad film personally. But I did understand. It just seemed to me it was kind of run of the mill. It was a run of the mill film to me. I wouldn't say it was one of the worst superheroes films that I've seen, but I certainly wouldn't say it was even in the sort of
the best ones.
The best 15 film, best 20 films or whatever. It was kind of definitely a middle of the ring, sort of middle film for me, to be honest with you. So my review is going to reflect that, and I'll give it a 5 out of 10. How about yourself?
Generally, I'd probably give it the same, 5 out of 10. It was.
I thought you were going to give it higher than that. I thought you were, you were a fan. No, fair
you'd
enough.
be surprised. No, I really did enjoy it. It was really good. I think just the character that really got to me, looks-wise, was, I think all your women will agree, Hal Jordan. But I also did feel a lot of sympathy for the bad guy as well, because, you know, the most reason he probably turned bad was not just because he got infected by fear, but because the fact is that he kept getting pushed out every single moment. So, but there are a lot of bits that obviously could have been done a lot better. We could have seen a lot more of the other Green Lanterns, which I think a lot of us did want to see. A lot more of the training as well. Seeing him get beat up.
I've got a feeling they may have been trying to sort of almost keep you on the hook for a sequel with that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just kind of like they didn't want to sort of blow their wad almost in the first film and kind of give you that and kind of almost. But I think that's the mistake that they made, was they just didn't make it interesting enough for fans, and I don't think kids were as hooked sort of immediately to begin with.
Yeah.
You know. So there you go. This film, just on a very final note, it seems to me like it was the studio who was kind of like going, right, this needs to be the sort of almost like, obviously they didn't say this, but it needs to be the sort of like jack of all trades, master of none, almost, and kind of just needs to be all the sort of like all the demographics. So it kind of needs to be just the sort of most sort of generic sort of film you can possibly do, with trying to sort of, you know, hit all these like funny comedy action, you know, sci-fi, without really ever sort of like finding its feet on a particular style. And that's the problem with it, I think. And I think maybe superhero. I mean, to be fair, superhero films now have been generally pretty good. I think this was one of the only sort of modern missteps, I would say.
Yeah. So,
but certainly not a worst film, I don't think. And
no,
so
it is a good funny note if you just want to have a bit of a giggle, because Ryan Reynolds is quite a funny guy. So and that just generally shows in the character.
Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Geek Legion of Doom. Bye for now.